Wanted Adventure, hosted by Donna Newman.
Growing up, when I was a kid, I can remember getting some cards or some letters from my grandma, who grew up in Czechoslovakia, and I can remember really sometimes struggling to read what she had written, and also noticing that some of the letters, how she wrote them, or the numbers, was different from how I was learning to write these letters and numbers in school. I was learning to write these things, and I noticed hers were kind of different. I think at that point, I just kind of chalked it up to it was grandma handwriting. I think I figured maybe it was a generational thing, or maybe it was just her own personal style. That's just how she wrote. And then I really didn't give much thought to my grandmother's handwriting for many, many years until I moved to Europe. I noticed that here in Europe, some people wrote some of the letters and the numbers in a similar way to how I had noticed my grandmother writing them. And when I saw that, I was like, hey, wait a second, I know that letter. So I had that kind of rolling around in my head for many years now, and finally I decided, okay, let's see what kind of a video I can make around this whole topic. I asked a few of my German and American friends and family members if they could write on a piece of paper the alphabet in capital letters, lowercase letters, and from 0 to 9. Then I looked and I found a few interesting things, and I thought I would share some of those in this video. All right, so let me get, I got lots of pieces of paper here. Okay, so this is a completely unscientific study. I don't have very many samples here. My sample size is not very, very large. Okay, so J, or J in German. Several of the German samples that I got, the J looks different than the J in several of my American samples. Here is the interesting German J that I got. Not all the Germans that I asked wrote their J like this, but some did. Coming from the US, the kind of capital J that I'm used to seeing is either just a J that's just like a fishing hook, or the fishing hook with a line that goes fully across the top of the J. Now let's look at the Z. In both the US and Germany, and in my samples here, in both places, I saw the Z's written both with a line in the middle of them and without a line written in the middle of them. Just from living in the US and living in Germany, I feel like the tendency in the US leans a little bit more toward more often writing the Z's without the line. Just my own feeling. Whereas in Germany, I feel like the tendency leans a little bit more toward writing the Z's with the line. And really interesting, 2 of my German writing samples here wrote the capitalized Z with a line and the lowercase z without a line. I just find it so interesting. Okay, moving on. The numbers were super interesting. We'll start with number 1, because number 1 is different. I noticed that in Germany, a lot of times, the number 1 is written with like this long line coming off the front of it. And in my samples, sometimes that long line is a little bit shorter, and sometimes that long line is really, really long, so that it's like the whole length of the 1. So the 1 almost looks like a kind of slanty A without the line in the middle. Whereas in the US, we did learn in school that the 1 can be written with a little line on the top and a line on the bottom. But I rarely see that actually written in the US. More often than not, the 1 in the US is just written as a line. The 7. The difference here is writing the 7 just like that, or with a line in the middle. And here in Germany, my little sample returned only 7s with a line in the middle, which makes sense because if you're going to write the 1 with, you know, that kind of line on the left, it does help if you clearly mark the 7 as a 7 with the line through the middle. In the US, I have seen it both ways. And lastly, the 9, another number that I find super interesting in its difference. To me, the 9s in Germany look like lowercase g's, whereas all of my American 9s are written not like g's, just a circle with a line coming down. So my question for you is, which of these handwriting styles do you do, or do you write in a different way? And what other interesting handwriting things have you noticed around the world? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in tomorrow's video where I'm talking about this experience that I had a few years ago that something happened and it made me feel like, wow. The world just feels really small sometimes. Until next time, until tomorrow, Auf Wiedersehen!
Want to watch another video? Here are 2. And a really, really, really big thank you so much to our patrons on Patreon who help make these videos possible. Thank you so much for your support. Bis morgen!